Welcome to the Thoroughly Wrong Project with Lalo and Bob. We appreciate you spending some time with us today. Let's jump right into that weekly dose of things you can disagree with. Take it away, guys.
All right, good morning and welcome to the Sunday edition of the Thoroughly Wrong Project. Been a weird 2 weeks, man. We missed last week, but here we are.
It was my fault last week, just FYI. Other people out there.
Nobody's fault, man. Nobody's fault. It's all good. This is the first time we've ever started at 9 o'clock, so I'm feeling good about it.
It's the first time that we started early that I didn't wake up like 3 minutes before starting.
You don't sound as groggy, brother. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've been up for like an hour and a half.
Nice. Nice. Is that going to be a thing for you now?
No, I just had to take my girlfriend's car to get washed. So they opened up. They opened at 8, so I got up at 7:30 to go get it washed.
Well, thank you. I
mean, unless she washes her car every Sunday, then it'll be a normal thing.
Okay, can I have her email so I can? I'll send her reminders.
Saturday nights, just drive through like mud, so you have to wash it the next morning.
Well, I got time. I can egg your fucking car. I can egg your car on Saturday night.
Nah, I'll just set an alarm. It's okay.
Cool, man. So, how was your week?
It was pretty good. Pretty chill week.
Yeah. You and I switched places at work, so that worked out for me.
Yeah.
And now you got the cat window.
I don't mind. I've become a cat person this last year, so.
Have you? Well, I noticed that you talk about your kitties at work sometimes.
Yeah, especially after we got the little one that we got from work.
Yeah.
She's like my little baby now.
Yeah, you're like Cats of Instagram guy now, aren't you?
Pretty much.
Well, I had a pretty good week. Actually, I'm starting school on the 23rd, so I'm going to be joining you and being busy as hell. So,
well, I'm off of school till the spring. So,
oh, are you?
Yeah, I'm taking this semester off, and then hopefully starting in the spring over there at CSUB.
There's that hopefully, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the application has the deadline for the spring semester is all of August. So I just need one more thing for my application. It's like some like tax information.
Okay.
Other than that, after that, I'll just submit it and go from there.
Yeah, I started school in 1989 or 90, and I went to 93, and then I took a semester off, and that ended up being like 2002.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went from 2002 to 2005 and decided to take another semester off, and then I graduated in 2010. So be careful, man.
Those little breaks turn into big breaks.
Yeah, well, in the middle of that break, something happens, and it's pretty big, and you're like, well, I could go back in the fall. And then the summer happens, and then you get a little fatter and a little lazier, and you're like, well, I could go back in the spring. And then, you get that raise at work, and you're like, well.
Yeah.
So it took me exactly 21 years to graduate from college. Pretty proud of that. That's something. That's saying something.
Yeah, I always say it's never too late.
Yeah, well, now I'm going back to get my master's degree. So in education, which is the irony of that is I started in 89 as an education major to be a school teacher. And if I had done that, I would be fucking retired. So, so why not start when I'm 58 or 59? Who gives a shit, right?
Exactly.
Yes. Happy birthday. I should be teaching by the first of the year. I'm hoping. And then that way, the main reason I did it is I'm 16 years older than my wife, and I'm nearing retirement. Well, she's not. And if I don't get a job where we can spend some time together, then I'm going to be 81 when she retires. And I know that my genetics, most of the people in my family, by the time in their the 80s, they're still mowing their lawns and doing shit, but there's no guarantee of that. So I took this time to, I'm going to take this time to spend the summers and the, spring breaks and all that shit with my wife. So that's the reason. Aren't I fucking romantic?
Oh, that's a pretty good plan.
Yeah, it's I could teach, and I'm going to be a kindergarten teacher, and I enjoy that. So my life got it's getting better, and it only took 50 some years for me to chill out and find out what I want to do in my life.
Yeah. Hey, it's never too late.
Yeah, I figure I'd work until I'm 100, and then I'm going to fish for about 5 years, and then figure out what I want to do with the rest of my life. What's going on in, you know what? I got a lot to talk about. And the main thing I wanted to start with was this idea that we have this liberals versus conservatives, Democrats versus Republicans. And I think Barack Obama did something, was it last week was his birthday party or a week before?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's this politician that claims to be for the people and yada, yada, yada. And when he came into office, there was great hope, man. I mean, he came into office, guns blazing, and we all like, yeah, go Barack. And he turns out in the end to be the same exact thing as every other politician. I read that when he and Michelle came to the White House, they were worth $1.3 million, and now today they're worth anywhere from 70 to 100 million. And politics just seems to be this money-making thing. And while they're up there making money and having birthday parties with Bruce Springsteen and all this shit, we're down here expecting them to be different when they're not. And it was disappointing. It was like looking into a window of what's really going on. Barack Obama's 60th birthday party. And really, Lalo, they're no different than anyone else. They're conservative, liberal, it doesn't matter. In the end, politics seems to be another money-making machine and another way to set the people against each other.
Yeah, I get that. Like the whole, like you're saying, at the end of the day, they're pretty much like different sides of the same coin,
Right.
In that regard, yeah, like in the whole, like, they're all pretty much like fucking rich and, a little bit hypocritical when it comes to like COVID and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think that the thing that really sets them apart, I think, is I mean, like Obama, like if you compare him to like someone like Bernie Sanders or like OAC or AOC, I mean, he's like super, like compared to them, he's like super right wing,
Right.
But I think especially Barack, he's gotten a lot more progressive, especially at the beginning of his second term, and then as time's gone on since he's left office. Because I feel like that pressure of being president is kind of off of him, He doesn't have to like appeal to anyone. He's not trying to get votes for anything. So he can be a little bit more like progressive in the way that he's changed, Like he might have felt a certain way while he was in office. He just didn't convey it. You know what I mean? Because I mean, he was pretty much, I wouldn't say against gay marriage, but he wasn't in favor of it, or he didn't like openly support it until like 2012. If you go back and like look at his like his stance on things. So I mean, that's not that long ago. It's less than 10 years ago. So I think they're all, super rich and, on this like upper pedestal of like where most politicians, live at. But I think their ideals and like their morals is what sets them apart from each other. That's what really sets the politicians apart from each other. because like when you talk to them, either personally or, like in an interview setting, that's where you really get to see like what sets them apart from each other.
Right. I just see the same hypocrisy from most everyone at that level. And when you make over $70 million since you've left office, I don't know, dude.
But I mean, you also have to look at, like how did he make his money? A lot of politicians like that, after they leave office, they'll do like book deals, or they'll do like speech tours.
Right.
Whereas there's a lot of politicians that make their money like in the stock market, and a lot of it that comes from the fact that they're in these like super secret like government meetings where they know like, hey, this policy is going to be enacted soon, or like we're going to give this company this government contract, and then you see them like 2 weeks later they buy a bunch of stock for that company.
Right.
So like some shady shit's going on there. So I mean, there's nothing wrong with like making money. I think the more like thing that you should pay more attention to is how they make their money. Like, are they like, cheating a system? Are they like, exploiting other people? Or are they, he just wrote a book, or, like he's had a few books since he's left office. I think so has Michelle. And I mean, they're pretty popular, because I always see them
right,
like promoted and, on bookstores, bookshelves and stuff like that.
Right.
So
yeah, I see that too. Okay. The way you make money, like David Cameron, I believe, was a former prime minister of the UK. He got involved in some shady deals with some healthcare and did some insider trading, got in real bad trouble, but pretty much slipped out of it. And now he's mega rich. And I just have trouble with the politicians in general. Since I started talking to you, I asshole. Since I started talking to you, I put these people I look at them differently. It's like, you're supposed to be servants of the people. So what happens when you get into office? You don't, like you said, he didn't say he was for gay marriage. There's a lot of things he didn't say until he got out of office. So what's the point of being in fucking office if you're not going to be true to your own ethics, your own morals? What's the fucking point if you're just going to go in there and be quiet so you don't get in trouble, so you can get reelected, so you can write the fucking book, so you can become a millionaire? That's the way it looks to me.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of that has to do with like optics. And I mean, if you're a politician, one of your like top 2 goals is to get reelected. Like that's one of your, top priorities all the time,
right?
Like continuously, especially if you're like a member of Congress. So I think that drives a lot of people to say certain things or to not say certain things, whether
right.
they believe them or not. At the back, like in the back of their mind, they know like, is this going to hurt me? Like at the polls, can my opponents like use this against me? Even if it's something that's like, like super righteous or like, something like that, they know like, I don't want to come off as like super radical, even though I am super radical. I just don't want to come off as that because, I want to get reelected. And I mean, sometimes it's not such a bad thing to do because, like, well, I'm better off, even though, I can't do everything that I want to do. I think I'm better off, going at it slowly than, going super all in and like, here are my views, here's what I think. And then you get kicked out and then you can't do anything at that point.
Right.
So I understand it's like a very like tricky game to play. Like that's all politics is. It's, it's like a game of chess. You have to think way ahead. of what you say and how they can be used against you or for you. So, I mean, I understand it. And that's why, that's where you could begin to talk about things like term limits, or like, for a president, you could talk about like a single, 6-year term or like a 5-year term.
Right.
And, then you won't have to worry about that. You become president. All right. You have, X amount of years to do, the legislation that you want. And, you could go all in.
Yeah. I would like to see it, because look at these two people. Do you think AOC's holding back?
Maybe a little bit, but not much at all.
Right. Do you think Marjorie Taylor Greene's holding back?
No, but
yeah, no, they're like not.
They're
and she's like, gonna get reelected.
Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, probably. But I think AOC has like a stronger base than Marjorie Taylor Greene. She comes off a little bit more crazy than AOC.
Right.
And I think even to like some of her own people, depending on like, what she says. And, she made that apology like press conference. I don't know if you saw it a while back. Where she was
which stupidity did she apologize for?
She was comparing I think it was like mask mandates
to the Holocaust.
Yeah,
I saw that.
And that upset a lot of people, and a lot of people that it upset were Republican, so that's why she was kind of pressured into backtracking a little bit again for like the optics, because I mean I'm sure she meant what she said,
right,
but and like afterwards, in hindsight, she kind of like, oh shit, like, I said the quiet part out loud. That's what, that's a phrase that a lot of like people on the left use when they're like watching like Republicans like on Fox and stuff.
Yeah.
And they say like something like, you're like, wait, what? Like a double thing, like they're saying the quiet part out loud. So.
Oh, fuck. Did I say that out loud?
So it's one of those, it's one of those moments for her. But yeah, I mean, I think we're becoming more and more like extremist on both ends. So it's a very polarizing time just in general.
Yeah. Well,
so
therein lies my boggle. Okay. More and more extremists. Okay, I get it. This center of the road, looking for optics, trying to stay in office, trying to make money, not trying to offend people. That's bullshit. If you offend people, you offend people. But, like abortion and gay rights and all these things that offend people, you can't say, well, Senator, what's your view on abortion? Well, I support the war in Afghanistan. You know what I mean? They never come out and say how they feel about anything because they're afraid they won't get reelected. Well, go ahead and say how you feel, and we'll just go ahead and reelect somebody, or we'll elect somebody that's popular, whoever's more popular in that district, whatever ideas are more popular in that district. But stop this fucking fence sitting bullshit, like I said, so you can stay in office, so you can write the book, so you can make the money. Because in my view, in a capitalist society, and this, I get this from you, in a capitalistic society, money is God, and any way you can make money. So if you hold back on your views, you don't get the legislation passed that you think should be passed, that you're passing shit that keeps you safe, that's not helping me out at all.
Yeah, and I mean, it's hard, like, even if you're like anti-capitalist, it's hard to not act like a capitalist even when you're anti-capitalist because of the society you live in,
Right.
You could be super hardcore, like socialist, communist, and then, you still have to work. You still have to, pay rent and, pay your mortgage, pay all these things.
Yeah.
So you still have to participate in the very system that you despise. And a lot of people kind of use that as a gotcha moment,
Yeah.
Like, oh, if you hate capitalism so much, why do you why do you own a house that you rent out to somebody?
Because
And
I
it's
have to
like,
eat.
yeah. So I mean, that doesn't take away from the fact that you're, actively trying to change, the system. You can still participate in it because you're kind of forced to,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I've heard a lot of people kind of use that thing, and like you said, money is God here, and at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter how you make it. Like, as long as you're making money, people will do almost anything.
Yeah.
Moral or immoral, ethical or unethical, because it's what drives everything we do.
Well, you
So
have to feed your family, and I understand. I get that some people break the rules and break the law to feed their family, and I understand that because they can't see past breaking the rules. They can't see how to do it right because they've never been taught to do it right. But you're right. You have to feed your kids. You have to keep shelter. You have to keep gas in your car and insurance and rent and you got to make payments. So if you're selling drugs to do it, it's not ethical. It's not moral, but you're doing it for a fucking reason, to survive. That's what I hate about capitalism, dude. People will do anything and everything, even if it includes hurting their fellow citizen, to stay afloat.
yeah, and I mean, when it, like, for with that example, like you're saying, like selling drugs, to feed your family or to provide for yourself and your loved ones, like that, even though, like you said, it's unethical or immoral, I would prefer that over somebody doing something completely legal just to like feed their greed of money.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's people that are already rich and then they still want to, pile it on.
That's a bold statement, brother.
And then because I mean, at the end of the day, like, like you could be selling weed like in your neighborhood, and I mean, that's not gonna fucking hurt anybody.
Right.
And then there's some dude like fucking scamming people or like exploiting people in like a perfectly legal way. And, he's already like fucking, driving his BMW or whatever. And he's just like, it's just greed at that point, It's not necessity, it's greed. And I think that's where it kind of switches over to that's too much,
Yeah.
But I mean, that's just my opinion.
I agree with it until it becomes methamphetamines, then
Yeah, I mean,
then
there's
we have a
a
problem.
certain, but like weed, I think
Mushrooms.
that's pretty much it.
Don't forget
like
mushrooms.
psychedelic. But I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a very like, it's like a little bit of a gray area.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you really think about it, like one person is literally just trying to survive. And I mean, for the most part, like 99% of the time, it's not going to hurt anybody.
Well, I understand exactly what you mean, because here's the guy or the gal selling weed out the back door and still living in a dilapidated apartment, still driving a shitty car, still eating shitty food, not able to do the things that other people are doing, and gets caught and goes to jail. Well, here's a motherfucker living in a mansion, has 4 cars, enough money for 8 lifetimes. He scams the government out of some taxes, and they're like, well, we're going to fine you, but you get to keep all your shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's kind of that.
Not fair. Not good at all. And you know what? Again, for the 3rd time today, I have to say you've opened my eyes to a lot of things. I was in Kohl's yesterday, and when your eyes are open to the problems that you and I talk about, I just happened to be in Kohl's, and I was in the back, and there's a little kid, not little, he's a teenager, and his mom, and that you could tell that they were poverty stricken. And I'm not being, I'm not down on it. I'm just saying from the look of them, and they were talking about getting the guy some clothes, and they were trying to do the math. Dude, they had $150 to spend, and they were trying to do the math, so see what he could get for pants and everything, and so they came up with $150. I was standing there looking at, just listening, because it was so fascinating to me that I used to live like this, and I didn't realize what was going on. And so they came up and they had $150, and then the kid goes, "What about taxes, Mom?" And she goes, "Oh, well, I'll put back my bra. I don't need it. I'll put my bra so you can get the pants." Dude, people live like that, and nobody gives a fuck about them. Nobody cares. Nobody, they're actually looked down upon because they're a little dirty and they're poverty stricken, and they drive shitty cars and they have a shitty life. And they're standing in the back of Kohl's trying to figure out how to get some clothes so this kid could go to school, while Jeff Bezos launches his fucking ass into space so he can float around for 3 minutes and come back and put a cowboy hat on and spray, $100 bottles of champagne on each other. The disparity between the rich and the poor here, you pointed it out to me. I began to see it, and now I'm seeing it in such radical ways that there's something deadly wrong with our culture, man. Deadly wrong.
Yeah, and I mean, you'll always get the argument of like, so and so like earned their money.
Yeah.
When in reality they didn't. Like Jeff Bezos didn't earn $100 billion. He didn't earn any amount of billions of dollars. No matter like what he did. Like, yeah, he founded Amazon, or he was one of the founders of Amazon. Like that alone, to me, still wouldn't be worth $1 billion, because you could only do something. Like you as one person could only produce a certain amount of product or services. Like after you top out, you need other people to work with you, or work for you. And at that point, without them, you don't expand, you don't grow.
Right.
So at that point, like you're, whether you're, co-founding or like they're just your employees and stuff, at that point you've stopped like earning, I mean, it sounds kind of like bad, but you've stopped earning what the rest of your company is producing. If they were if you had a company with like 20 people, and they all quit, guess what? You would go under.
Yeah, you'd be fucked.
And that's what it's hard to grasp that here, that, at the end of the day, like in probably 100% of the industries here, the working class has all the power. And I mean all the power. Like right. But it's hard to understand that and to kind of use that power, because you're always being like pushed down, it's hard for a lot of companies to go on strike because they're all, they're going on strike because they want better wages. But it's kind of hard to go on strike because when you go on strike, you're not getting paid your shitty wage that you need in order to survive.
Right.
So it's like, it's hard to fight. It's hard to utilize that power because the people on top are actively trying to get you to not even recognize that you have the power.
Yeah, right. The haves, the rich have slowed down the system of change so much that it's hard for the people under them to catch a footing, to get enough. It's like, we're going to go on strike. Well, how are you going to fucking eat? Well, and it's the same thing, it's the same thing when you come to, I've been thinking a lot about this vaccine thing. It bleeds over into everything, man, because here's people who don't want to get the vaccine, and I respect that, Lalo. I really do. Okay. Again, a couple weeks ago, we talked about how I stopped listening to conservatives, and you taught me that I need to listen to them. So I've been back. I've been listening to Fox News. I've been listening to the talking heads again, but I've been listening with a different ear this time, not so much to disagree with them, but just to get the information that I need in order to be a balanced citizen. So I respect people that don't want to get the vaccine. It's really hard for me to say that, but at the same time, here comes all these governments are coming in and they're start saying, okay, you're going to get the vaccine or else. And people were like, well, that's against my civil liberties, my civil rights. I'm going to sue. Well, I talked to somebody the other day and she said the same thing. I wonder if I can just get a lawyer. And I said, you do realize that it will take you months to get a lawyer. It will take you more months to sit down with that lawyer. Then you're going to have to wait until the court system catches up to it. Then you're going to have to wait. And I said, how are you going to fucking eat while you're suing the corporation? How are you going to do that? And she said, I don't know. And we're fucking powerless, Lalo. We're powerless. They don't pay us enough. We can't go on strike. They force us to do things against our will. We have to do it or we just starve. And that doesn't, if a fucking billionaire doesn't want to get the vaccine, guess what? He's not going to get it, and it's not going to affect him whatsoever.
Yeah, and I mean, I was talking to Robert, our coworker, about it because I've been kind of but I've been more like interested in like our union at work and how it works, and
yeah,
and he was part of it, like he was pretty deep into it before, so I would just ask him questions about how does this process work? How does that process work? And, he would tell me like our union is pretty weak. Like when you look at it, that's one of the reasons why, we haven't gotten a raise in over a decade, because they don't fear us. They don't take us seriously because, we could threaten, strike, we could threaten all these things. But at the end of the day, we have to vote. Like if we say like, hey, we're going on strike, like us as a union have to vote. Hey, are we going to go on strike? Yes or no? And they always vote no because they can't afford to not get paid during that strike.
Right.
So, the board of supervisors, they're just fucking laughing at us. Like they see they're not going to go on strike. They could threaten all they want. Like we'll just hold out until we're literally forced to give them a raise, until the minimum wage literally catches up with them. That's when, we'll give you, what we're required to, but nothing more than that. While we get to vote on our own raises. Like the board of supervisors get to vote whether they get raises themselves,
right?
Which I think is pretty like it's one of those, like, what the hell? Like, is that legal? Oh, should I get a raise? Yes or no? I'll go with yes. So it's like you said, it's one of those things. I mean, when it comes to vaccines, I think I'm a little bit harsher than you, like my stance on it. Like you said, that you can respect someone that doesn't want to get the vaccine. And I mean, to a point, I can do that too. But to me, like, okay, you don't want to get the vaccine. Why? And if they tell me the reasons and all their reasons are like based in like misinformation or disinformation, or just like irrational fears, like then at that point, I'm like, well, I try to tell them like, well, that's not true because of this and this, this and that. And I try to like debunk all their reasons. And then after that, they're just like, no, I just don't want it. Then at that point, it's like, well, you're not going to get to do a bunch of shit. And if you complain about it, then too bad. It sucks for you. Like there's actual like there's some religions I'm sure that are very like, strict on vaccines. And I mean, if you're really part of that religion, then I understand that. Or if you have already like something else that could affect the vaccine could like affect you, like celiac disease or something,
Right.
That I understand. But if you're just like, no, because it's not FDA approved, like, man, shut the fuck up. Like that shit's gonna be one, it's FDA approved for emergency use, and then two, every time I hear that, I tell people, oh well, the FDA's they're looking to approve it by Labor Day. And then once you tell them that, they're like, okay, well, and they give you another reason.
Right.
It's like that was never one of their reasons. They just use that as like a little scapegoat, you know?
Well, isn't that, sir, I have to call you on this, dude. Isn't that what you've been trying to teach me? Choice is choice. It doesn't matter what the fucking reason is. If you choose to vote for Donald Duck and I try to talk you out of it because he's a cartoon character and you just say, I'm voting for Donald Duck. Well, okay, that's your choice. That's your choice. Put your fucking mask on, and if you don't want to do that, take your chances. But I still have to, I'm not saying I agree, but I respect the choice that you make. That's what democracy is, man.
But voting for Donald Duck's not going to get people killed.
It's going to get them killed.
At least not.
That's their choice, dude. Correct. It's going to get them killed, not me. I'm vaccinated. I wear a mask. So my chances of getting it are low. And my chances of getting sick from it, really sick and dying, are really low. If you want to take the chance, that's your choice. I jump out of fucking airplanes and people think that's fucking crazy. But I still do it. I still rock climb without ropes. You know why? Because I do it because I want to. You got to respect it, man. Like I said, I totally disagree. I totally disagree, and I'm with you on all the reasons. You give me the stupidest fucking reasons you want. I'm just going to say, okay, that's your choice.
I'm not for forced vaccines. Like you're going to fucking hold people down and vaccinate them.
Right.
But you see a lot of private
cattle.
companies. Yeah, you see a lot of private companies mandating vaccines for their employees. And at that point you have the choice. Like you could get vaccinated or you could leave. And that's what a lot of people are complaining about, they're going to fire me over blah blah. No, they're going to fire you over a choice that you make. So yeah, I'm not going to tell people I'm not saying I'm for forced vaccinations, but all these super Republican and capitalistic people, that's free enterprise. That's a free market. These companies are looking out for their bottom line and they're looking out for their safety of their employees and the people that, they service, their customers. And if you don't want to do that, then you could go get another job. Go find somebody that won't require you to get vaccinated.
Doesn't that seem like force? Doesn't it seem like you're holding me down? Get it or else.
I mean, that's
I'll fire you.
That's the same thing that they're arguing. Those are the same things that they argue for if it was a different issue. But just now that it affects them, all of a sudden they're anti. It's all these people anti-vax people oh, what happened to my body, my choice? Yeah, you're against that to begin with. You're not pro-abortion. And now all of a sudden you're, oh, what happened to my, you're making fun of the argument that you're against. So that's why I always smirk and laugh and chuckle at those things because, all these things, everybody they're against these things or they're for these things until it affects them personally. And I've even heard people at our work say, I'm gonna try to hold out as long as I can, because I don't trust it, I don't think it's safe, blah blah blah. But all those beliefs are based in just misinformation. So they feel that way and they're making that choice based on misinformation. So what we can try to do is, give them the right information and hopefully, change their mind. But at the end of the day, if they don't do that, then, we're healthcare workers. We're going to compromise the health of the population that we service because you don't want to get vaccinated. At that point, I think it's reasonable for you to lose your job at that point. If there's nurses and hospital staff that are refusing vaccination, okay, then there's compromised people in hospitals 24/7.
Right.
So there's certain professions and certain like sectors where if it's like mandated and you don't want to, then yeah, you're gonna get fired. If I don't think they're gonna mandate fucking vaccines at like Domino's. It's a lot of these places usually where it's like, uh, like there's a lot of like airlines, but I mean even some of the airlines are saying we're not gonna mandate vaccines, but you have to get tested on a regular basis, and then people don't want that either. They don't want to get vaccinated. They don't want to test. They just don't want to do anything. They just want to.
Well, isn't that endemic of our society? People don't want to fucking do anything. They want the least amount of responsibility, the least amount of work necessary or possible. That's been an American ideal for fucking years, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So
and I mean,
it just bleeds over. That whole mindset bleeds over into everything. I don't want to go to the store. I don't want to go here. I don't want to get a vaccine. I just want to sit here and watch TV or do what I want to do. That's why, how many people vote in this country? Like,
on average, probably like 100 million.
Yeah, so
a little bit more than that.
Fully 2/3 of us are just fuck it. Mm-hmm. So why are we shocked that no one wants to go? I don't have a real reason. I just don't.
I'm not shocked at it, but I'm saying, like, these are the times we're living in right now. Like, you have to choose one or the other. You either get vaccinated or you get tested on a weekly basis. And if you don't want to do either of those, then, I mean, at that point, you're going to suffer the consequences of whatever happens. And I remember I asked, like, management at our work, like, what happens if they don't want to get vaccinated and they don't want to test, Right. I'm sure there's going to be there's people like that want to do that, not want to do either. And, the answer I was given, well, it's a state order. So that would be considered insubordination. And at that point, you could get fired for insubordination.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's really up to you at that point. It's really not that big of a deal to get vaccinated. But you don't have to. Like, I'm not saying you have to. I heavily encourage it. And if any, like, private company, private entity, private business that they love so much tells their employees, like, hey, you either have to do this or that. Well, I don't want to do either. I don't want to do either. Okay, then you're fired. I mean, at that point, like, I can't do, like, I'm not gonna cry a river,
Right. You don't see it bleeding over into the private sector?
Well, I mean
healthcare. You don't see it bleeding over into.
I think in healthcare, it should be mandatory, because it's healthcare. Like, there's immunocompromised people, in senior citizen homes and, right. Hospitals, stuff like that. But I mean, I don't see it really bleeding over to like regular ass, like, grocery stores, like fucking just any type of business,
Yeah.
Like, I don't see him being like super hard mandates. I mean, the most I would see is you either have to get vaccinated or test regularly, which I feel like that's not really super unreasonable to ask for.
Military service, are they gonna?
I mean, that's always been part of military. Like, historically, what do they call it? Like, inoculation.
Yeah,
that's always been.
I never forget that day, man. I will never forget that day. Stand in line, and they didn't have needles; they had those guns. You ever see it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was like you stepped in line two people shot shit into your left and right arm. You took a step forward, two more, step forward, two more. By the time there's blood running down off your arms. And then the last one was, you got to pull your pants down and take a shot of penicillin in the ass. And I was so fucking sick from all that at once. I guess my immune system was like, oh, fuck off, you know?
Yeah, because I mean, when it comes to the military, I'm pretty sure you like half of your rights go out the window as soon as you sign on the dotted line. And so, I mean, the military is very, like, I think it's a different, like, it's just a different category on its own, you know? But I mean, in the military, as far as I know, historically, like vaccine, like mandates or, you know, certain things like that, it's been part of the military for years and decades.
Oh, here, I looked it up, man. List of companies announcing vaccine mandates. It's Cisco, DoorDash, Facebook, Frontier Airlines, Google, Tyson Foods, United Airlines, Walgreens, Walt Disney, Walmart, the Washington Post. So it is bleeding over into the private sector.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm pretty sure all of those also have the like or test regularly type of thing.
Yeah. Are these, here's a good question though. When you mandate, so let's say Walmart, and Walmart has a lot of poverty-stricken people working for it because they pay shitty wages as much as they can wherever they are. Is Walmart going to say, okay, get the vaccine or get tested, and here in the back of the store is where the test is? Or do you have to go somewhere to get it? Now that leaves a problem. You have poverty-stricken people working for you. Now they have to find a way to get to the test site once a week, in addition to finding their way to work, in addition to finding a way to fucking survive.
I mean, when it comes to like huge corporations like that, I think they'll give you like the resources. Like, hey, if you want to test, you could test for free here, you know, and they'll give you like a list. Because I mean, I know even our department's like looking into that because they know there's going to be a lot of people that are going to want to just test.
Right.
And they're like going to try to find, or they are finding like, you know, places where you could go where it's like regularly and, you know, so it could kind of be like part of your schedule type of thing, you know? And right. I mean, you could go during, in all these places, I'm pretty sure you're able to go during like work hours because it's like a work related thing.
Okay.
So I mean, yeah, like I get what you're saying about the whole, you're kind of putting like the poverty stricken like and the disadvantage at a more of a disadvantage, you know? Mm-hmm. But it's kind of hard for me to feel bad for like ignorance, you know? Because I mean, a vast majority of like people that don't want to get it don't want to get it for like not valid reasons. And I mean, like, if you're like seriously, like if you can't, like if you're super like, you know, religious about, I don't know, I don't even know a religion that's like super anti-vaccine.
I've been looking into that and I can't find one, Lalo. I can't.
Like the only thing I can think of is like a Jehovah's Witness because I know they're like
that's blood transfusions.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I know they have that, so I was like, maybe they have the vaccine thing too.
I mean, there's some cults out there. I do know of one, the Way International. Have you ever heard of that one?
No.
Yeah, like exactly. They had like a lot of members back in the 70s and 80s. They had a Bible called The Way, and it was huge. But you couldn't. They said, "Don't go to the doctor. We'll pray for you." And they had a lot of people die. So that's the only one I can think of that would even come close to medical intervention being against, you know, the church. But the Jehovah's Witnesses, there's one scripture in the Bible that says, "Don't drink blood," and it's in like Leviticus, and they took that to mean don't. I don't know how they took it, but you can't. Don't drink blood. I guess don't introduce other people's blood into your body. I don't know what the fuck it was, but that's the only one. But the rest of this, man, the rest of this, it's like people are searching for ways, and it just seems like you open the door there. It's like all of a sudden, are you gonna? Well, I'm a member of the Way International now. I don't want it. And how are you gonna prove that this whole fucking thing? I listen, dude. I agree with you. This should not have been politicized in the beginning anyway. COVID-19 is a dangerous, dangerous thing. And if you don't want to get vaccinated, I'm not going to call you ignorant. I'm going to call you misinformed. And you need to come over from the dark side, I guess, whatever you want to call it. But these people are so misinformed, but at the same time, now it's gotten convoluted. It's like, well, for religious reasons or health reasons. Health reasons are easy to prove. Go to the doctor says here. Religious reasons, not so much. You're going to get a note from your pastor.
I've heard people at work say that, like, I'm going to go talk to the father of my church and see if he could give me some sort of letter. But I'm like, what is that letter going to say? Like, I'm 90% sure that person was like Catholic. I was like, what is that letter going to say that, falls in line with Catholic beliefs? That's also like anti-vax, but I mean, I guess we'll see.
Well, the church just released, I saw it the other day. They released a letter saying people should need to get vaccinated. So that's, if you're Catholic, sorry, you're out.
If the Pope comes out and tells people like Catholicism is not anti-vax, then all them Catholics are out of luck. Like, I mean, the head honcho said it himself, like, get vaccinated. So I don't think...
Did you just call a Pope the honcho?
Yeah, the head honcho. The top dog, as they do.
The boss man. All right.
But I mean, like, and I know I hear a lot of arguments of like, if COVID's really only ravaging like the unvaccinated right now, like, why are you so worried about it? Like, we're getting unvaccinated. We're the ones, getting sick and dying. Like, that's a risk I'm willing to take.
Right.
And I mean, that's fine and all, but it's not that simple. Like, there's a lot of people that are unable to like actually get the vaccine for valid reasons, and they're being put at risk. There's people that, as small as it may be, there's still people that get vaccinated that, still succumb to, COVID.
Right.
And, those are the people that, you're trying to help. And I mean, even if you're ignorant and you get COVID and die.
Misinformed.
Yeah. Like, at that point, like, it's still, like I've said it before, I try not to like have that whole mentality of like, oh, told you so, like, see what happens, like you see an anti-vax person get COVID and then they die.
Right.
I mean, I try not to be like, haha, like, that's what you get. Like, see, this is what happens when you don't listen. Because at the end of the day, it's like I've said, it's still people dying.
Yeah.
So people dying that really didn't need to die. And I mean, I don't think any amount of like ignorance is worth dying. Like, I don't think that should be the price to pay.
No, you're right. You're right.
I mean, that's just what I think. And I mean, it's okay to disagree. But like I said, I'm not going to feel bad for if people lose their jobs for, just ignorance.
Well,
because like you said, there's misinformation. Like you could be misinformed, but then when you are informed of like the facts and the truth, and then you still choose to just ignore it, then that's ignorance. And at that point, it's like you're gonna suffer the consequence of your choices.
I agree. My biggest argument is not in the short term, because I see, like, say, plenty of people are getting it and they're laying in the fucking hospital and they're on Facebook begging everybody, please, this is no joke, I was wrong. That's not my concern. at this point, I don't want that person to die. My concern is the longer we let this fucking thing go, the stronger it gets, the more it morphs, the more deadly it becomes, because it's alive. People don't understand. The virus it's a live thing. It's a living thing, and it's basically its only goal is to survive. And in order to survive, it has to change. So it jumps from person to person, and then it morphs a little bit, and it morphs a little bit. And, you know, sooner or later, it comes down to an Ebola type of virus where you get it and you fucking bleed out. There is no cure. There is no nothing. So if we continue to not get vaccinated and this continues, the variants continue, they will get stronger and stronger and stronger until we're facing some shit like the infections we get today. And MRSA is a variant of an infection, and it gets stronger, and then penicillin doesn't work, and then ampicillin doesn't work. And if we don't stop it, I try to tell people, if we don't stop it now, eventually it will stop us.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't get that. They don't know that about viruses, that they change, and, you know, like you said, they morph.
Yeah.
And when you have, you know, even if, you know, like you're saying, oh, you're vaccinated, don't worry about us. Like you said, it's gonna change, and it might become, you know, the vaccines might become ineffective to a new strain.
Right.
You know, and people joke about that, like, oh, it's the Delta virus or the Delta variant. You know, next we're gonna have like the alpha beta variant and this and that. And like, no, like, yeah, that's what happens. Like, viruses change and they morph, and they become, you know, these vaccines that we create, they become ineffective, and they could get worse. And we might get a variant that's, you know, a lot more deadly. Like, we don't know. And that's the point of eradicating it right now when we're able to.
Yeah, right.
You know, that's how you get rid of, you know, that's how we got rid of polio, you know, like, you know, max vaccinations. Like, if there's always that, you know, that little group holding out, they're the ones that are, that's where the virus is changing, you know, within that group of people that are still getting it.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it's changing. That's where it's morphing. And that's where you get those strains that, you know, could turn out to be a lot deadlier.
I'm going to point out something that it sounds funny and it sounds wrong, but it's so true. In the 50s, when polio vaccine came around, there was no FDA. There wasn't an approval. It was just like, hey, this works. We've done the testing. It works. Everybody line up. And you know what? Everybody fucking lined up.
I think when people see like fucking people in like iron lungs and shit,
yeah,
that's something for them.
Well, what do we see? We're seeing people in oxygen tents, and we're like, fuck it, that's not going to be me. That's not going to be me. Back in the 60, 70 years ago, I think our perceptions of freedom have changed. And in the 50s, the perception of freedom included keeping your neighbor safe, including keeping everyone in the culture safe. And now we've become this selfish, egotistical, self-centered culture where we're like, you know, taking selfies and making ourselves look good, and fuck everybody else, and I'm a billionaire, and fuck off. And vaccine, fuck you, I'm not taking it. It just seems like we've morphed from this, like well, maybe we're the goddamn virus, like Robert from work says. We're the virus. We're morphing in ways to keep our, what we think is our freedom, and it's actually killing us. It's actually destroying us from the inside out.
We've become very like individualistic.
Yeah.
It's all about, you know, the individual, and, you know, don't worry about me. Like, I'll take care of myself. Like, but you can't think that way when you live in a society that's very like globalized, you know?
Yeah.
Like, humans are more connected than ever. So it's kind of hard.
Isn't that odd? We're more connected than ever, and we're more isolated than ever.
Mentally, we're isolated.
Yeah.
But like physically, we're more connected. So yeah, it's. I don't. I mean, I don't. I don't know exactly when that like shift happened of that state of thinking or that way of thinking, but yeah, it's doing a lot of damage for sure.
Yeah, it is. And you, we're going to wrap this up. We're in an hour, but I have something we want to talk about next week, so you can get ready for it. I wanted to talk about it this week, but we didn't get to it. I want to talk about this vaccine passport. And there's a lot of good in it, and there's some bad in it too. And we'll discuss that next week. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right.
I'll be prepared to take you down. 'Cause I have a feeling that you have more bad than good on it.
Maybe. Like a boxer, you're going to train for my weaknesses, right?
Exactly.
All right, dude. It's been interesting. It seems like our theme is all about money and capitalism, and everything we talk about boils down to this selfishness of our culture. And it's not just us, though. There's people rioting in France. It seems like the westernized world has lost its fucking mind, and by westernized I mean affluent.
I mean, we're in that, like you said, I mean, you could trace most things to, like, why we do most things. You could usually trace them back to the way capitalism works,
Yeah, the dollar or the yen
Um,
or the franc or the euro.
so we're in that. Have you ever heard of the term, like, late stage capitalism?
Yes, absolutely.
So,
We're in
so
that. We are in that phase.
and I mean, where we go from here, it's kind of anybody's guess. It could get a lot worse before it gets better, or we could realize it before it gets a lot worse and start working on getting it better now. So it's really up to us.
No, we're not that smart, brother.
That's the thing. You don't have to be all that smart. You just have to like have the need for change.
Yeah.
When you have enough people that are starving in the streets, that's a big driving force for a lot of people.
Well, as long as it's not them, right?
I heard this real quick. I heard this. It was like this Fox News segment about it was fuck, I forgot her name. It was like the anchor, whatever. And then, have you ever seen that show Bar Rescue?
Yeah.
It was like the dude from that show. And they were talking about like, how people like don't want to work and they can't find employees and all this stuff. Because they're able to survive on their unemployment benefits right now. And she was talking about how he said something, and then she said, well, what if we just cut off on unemployment, like completely? And she made the comment like, being hungry is a real good reason to work.
Incentive, yeah.
Yeah. And at the end of the segment, he made the analogy of military dogs. He said, in the military, they only feed the dogs at night because a hungry dog is an obedient dog. And that was one of those things where it's like, oh shit, they're like saying the quiet part out loud.
Yeah.
Like
I heard that.
That's their solution. Like that's what, if it could be their way, that's what they would have. They would have a starving working class that is just under their control. It's like slavery, basically.
A hungry person makes more widgets.
So, I mean, whatever you take from that, that's, up to you.
Well, that's fucking ominous and scary, dude. That's what that is.
So, and I mean, a lot of the time, those people are the ones that have like the power, or the influence.
Right. Right.
So,
God damn, let's end this one on an ominous note. Well, here we are at the end, and I want to say we've said some things, and if you disagree, please, we welcome you onto the show. We welcome you onto the podcast. Come and be as radical as you want. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the vaccine. Let's talk about capitalism. Let's talk about anything you disagreed with. You're welcome to come on. And we don't attack people here. We listen and we give reasons back, right? I mean, yeah, that's what we're here for. So if you feel like you've been offended, please contact the show, thoroughly-wrong@gmail.com, or if you work with me, you know where my office is.
I forgot who it was. I think it was one of our coworkers. They walked into the little pod where we sit, or where I sit now.
Yeah.
And they're like, look, Francisco, you should feel right at home, liberal city. And I was like, I didn't ask anybody because I didn't, like, they were all out for the day. But do you guys ever, like, if you guys are like all there, do you guys just like ever conversate about anything?
Yes. No. Yes. It depends. And at the risk of, talking about my employment, it depends on who is there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I've always wondered, like, is that a thing that
yeah, I know. I'm in an office with Mr. Liberal himself now, which is fine. I'm good with that. All right, dude. It's been a good day. It's been I can't believe you call people ignorant, but that's fine.
I call a lot of people ignorant. But only if they show ignorance. That's usually how it goes.
All right, man. So I'll see you next week.
I prefer that over like stupid. So
well, yeah, that works. Okay, I prefer
this nice.
I prefer uninformed. That leaves me wide open. I'm protected. I just said you're uninformed. That's it. So I'll see you next week, same time.
Sounds good, man.
And vaccine passports. We're going to start with that. I think we're going to box over that one. I like that. So this has been a wondrous day, wondrous podcast. I like this one. This has been Bob.
And Lalo.
And this has been the Thoroughly Wrong Project. And just remember, everything we said, everything we think, everything Lalo and I talk about, we could be thoroughly fucking wrong. See you next time, man. Later.
Later.
You have now experienced the Thoroughly Wrong Project with your podcast hosts, Lalo and Bob. We can now be found on Pandora Radio, Apple Podcasts, Podium Podcast, or by searching the Thoroughly Wrong Project to locate our YouTube channel. You can contact us directly by email at thoroughly-wrong@gmail.com, or just leave a comment on any of our platforms. Until next time, thanks for spending your valuable time with us, and remember, always speak up and never be afraid to be thoroughly wrong.